Did you always want plantation shutters, but you always thought they were professionally installed only? Well, I found an online source where you can measure your own windows and order your own plantation shutters and even install them yourself. They're really easy to do. I'm going to show you how to order them and how to install them coming up. Let me start by saying these are not cheap shutters made by child labor in a third world country. They are 100% white PVC, custom made in the USA to your specifications. They're really easy to install. It took me about an hour to do both windows, including moving the camera to make this video. Now I'm going to walk you through the ordering process and talk about all the options. But if you'd prefer to just see how they're installed, skip to the time code on the screen shown below. Okay, this is the listing for the plantation shutters that I used. The brand here is Suncraft Shutters. This is, of course, Amazon. You can buy them direct from Suncraft Shutters. They're no cheaper that way, so I prefer to use Amazon, quite honestly. Just one thing, a couple of things I'll tell you about this is that the price, $159, is a bit misleading because that's for a very small window right here. And this is just like a default price, but you'll see it doesn't say add to cart, it says customize now. And we're going to go into that in a second. The other thing is to see that this item is non-returnable. So you're responsible for measuring your window and of course making the order correctly. So that is one thing about being DIY, is you're taking that responsibility. So a couple of things. First of all, there's a lot of different styles that you can choose from. You can do full doors, you can just do windows, you can do a single pane, you could do multiple. There's a lot of options here, but and even different trim options too. How to measure, this is interesting too because it all starts with good measurements. So what you definitely want to do is measure the window in 3 places, top, bottom, and the middle, and the same thing from side to side. And they say to provide the smallest width and height measurements and accurately to the closest 1/16 of an inch. So you measure accurately. You do not pad it, do not take any kind of assumptions. You find the smallest measurement out of the 3, and that's what you send them. This one is 34 7/8, 34 7/8, 34 5/8. So 34 5/8 is the smallest. The depth is 5 inches total. 58 3/8, 58 3/8, 58 1/4 would be the smallest. All right, so let's go into customize now. So step 1, pricing and measuring instructions. You can see here I'm going to select the full width, which my width was 34 inches. And you can see the price goes up depending upon the width. And the fraction was 5/8. So 34 5/8 was my measurement. That was the smallest measurement of the width. And the height was 58, and you can see this is where the price goes way up as well because it's big. And it was 58 1/4. And they ask you to confirm 34 5/8 by 58 1/4. So this will actually be reviewed by a human. They don't just trust that you put these things in here. They're going to make sure that this actually matches. And they will reach out to you for confirmation. Shutter frame choice. There are 6 options here you can see. We went with plain bullnose. You can also say you're not sure, and they will recommend, depending upon your window. But we went with plain bullnose. How do you want the panel to be hinged? Do you want one panel on the left, one panel on the right, or do you want 2 panels? Depends on the look that you want. We went with 1 panel left and 1 panel right. Actually, look, there's more options here too. You can go with bifold panels if you wanted to. There's a lot you can do here, but ours was relatively simple. So in here is where you would say, I want you to email Chris. So that's how they would email me. And here is where I would put the window depth. and this was 5 inches. So for the louver size, there's 2.5, which is kind of small. You can see in the picture. 3.5 is the most common, or 4.5 is actually like an oversized. So we went with 3.5 in ours. Then you're going to pick options. So you can have no split tilt, which means the entire thing is hinged together. So just opening up any one of these opens them all. You can do a center split tilt, or you can do a 2/3 up from the bottom tilt. We did center split, and that way you could have the bottom closed, but you could still have light coming in from the top. Does your window have a sill? Ours does. It has a protruding sill. If you don't have a sill, they'll give you a bullnose at the bottom, but because we had a sill, they give a flat piece for the bottom. Is it for a patio door? I said no. You can have bifold tracks if you wanted, or a bypass track. So you can do them on patio doors. Of course, the price does go up. Is this shutter for a French door? So this one has no cutout for the handle, and this one is a cutout for the handle. So that's another $245. My old house had a door like this with a shutter on it. And I can be willing to bet that that wasn't a DIY job. So if you're just going for windows, you're just going to say no here. Okay, and then photos for professional review. So in this case, you would actually take pictures of each one of the measurements. And I did this, and I sent them. And you would actually upload those photos right here. And again, this is for them to double check your measurements. And I think that's really a good service that they provide, because it takes some of the pressure off of you. You get another pair of eyes looking at your measurements. Now, there's one more field on this page, and that is room name. Now, if you're getting multiple shutters, you definitely want to put something in here so that you can tell them apart, and they will actually be on the label on each one of the shutters, whatever you enter here. So I use living room left and right, for example, and that's how I could tell them apart. And then, have you ever ordered shutters from us before? And if you say yes, then they know, first of all, they'll probably look up your order number, etc., whatever, but they also know that you know how to install them. So that's a good thing. So generally, that's the ordering process. And you can see this is my customized price for those big windows, $489.50 for one window. Now, if I wanted 2 of them the exact same size, I could just change the quantity here and add 2 of them to the cart. But in my case, there was about 1/4 of an inch difference between the 2 windows. So I would have to just add 1 to the cart like this, and then order another one. Just go through the same process again with the new measurements for the other one. And that is also how I would get one that opens to the left and the other one that opens to the right. If you have any questions about the ordering process, just leave a comment on the video, and either I'll answer it myself or I'll get someone from Suncraft to answer it for you. The shutters were shipped by FedEx from the factory in California and delivered in 3 large boxes that were packed extremely well. The shutters have spring-loaded rollers on the top and the bottom that hold them closed in the frames. One word of caution is when opening the frames, they have a lot of PVC dust inside them from the milling process. Another thing to note is that all the included screws are Robertson screws, or square drive. So you'll need the appropriate screwdriver bits and preferably a low-speed cordless drill to drive them. I started by laying out the frame pieces face down on the carpet. The frames snap together with 4 plastic corner clips. But the clips alone don't hold the miters tight enough. So depending on your style of frame, you'll either use the included instant glue or angle irons to tighten them up. Note that I'm intentionally driving the 4 screws away from the corner so that it pulls the miter tight. My flat bottom rail doesn't need any angle irons. To install them, I tilted the frame back and inserted the bottom into the opening. Then a little bit of force to push in the top. The frame has these ingenious rubber gaskets that ensure it's centered in the opening. They also hold the frame in place while I went to get the ladder and the drill. The first screw that I needed to drive was at the top of the frame on the hinge side. I used a very slow speed and made sure to stop as soon as I felt resistance. If you drive the screws too hard, they can go right through the PVC or warp the frame. Next, I grabbed the 4 hinge pins in my mouth and set the shutter into the opening. The hinge pins are not tight, so they should be easy to remove if you ever need to remove the shutters. After visually checking the spacing of the shutter around the opening, I drove the rest of the screws while pushing the frame tight to the wall. They also say you can caulk around the frame for a nice professional look, but I wouldn't do that unless I was going to paint the room afterwards. The final step was to cover the holes with the included white clips. These clips can easily be removed if you ever need to access the screws to remove the frames. It's easy to open the window to let in fresh air, but be aware that shutter frames typically hinder your ability to tilt the sash for cleaning. If you have any questions about how to install these beautiful plantation shutters, just leave me a comment down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. If you need shade on your deck or patio this summer, check out Toya Grid Pergola Kits. You source the lumber locally and can assemble this modular system in as little as 30 minutes. Check the video description for links to videos and more information about Toya Grid.